Good morning. We start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga from the small booklet. From the heart of the Savior of 100 deities of Tushita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clam of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient Losandrapa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me, on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for my mind of faith, please abide for 100 yawns to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Please in drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, lice, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows, that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with reverent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the eight worldly concerns. Savior, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect, pure, holy gurus from the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of Dharmakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losandrapa's teachings to shine forever. Saji Ki Chu Shi Metok Tramari Rapling Shi Ni de gem padi sange shindu mi te uwa Idrokunamdak Shila Chuparsho. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losandrapa, who had the morality of eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and the imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Now we recite 5-line Miksema, page 8, 3 times together. Mikme tsewe te chen chen resik, drime gempe wampo jampe liang, dupo malu jonze sawe dat, kanchen gepe tsungen tsong kapa, lo san drape shabla solwade. Mikme tsewe te chen chen resik, drime gempe wampo jampe liang, Dupo malu jonze saweda, kanchen kepe tsungen tsong kapa, lo sandra pe shabla solwade. Mikme tsewe te chen chen resik, drime gempe wampo jampe liang, dupo malu jonze saweda, kanchen kepe tsungen tsong kapa, Lo Sandra Peshabla Solwade. And I pray for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in a glory for fortunate disciples.
Sangye Chedong Tsoji Chonong La Changche Pardo Dang Gyapsu Chi Dagi Chishi Gipante Dagi Dralam Penche Sangye Drubar Sho Sangye Chedong Tsoji Chonong Changche Pardo Dang Gyapsu Chi Dagi Chishi Gipante Dagi Dralam Penche Sangye Drubar Sho Sangye Chedong Tsoji Chonong Changche Pardo Dang Gyapsu Chi Dagi Chishi Gipante Dagi Roland Page, Sanjin Trevor Show Kangi, Tuzini Zuni, Tawa Tomse Pompis, Tambison, Kodum Tela Chanze Lo Namulai Kedon, Ziggy Trevor Dalami, Kenon, Kunjitanum Chism, Tamje Gedo Dagi, Chudan to. Good morning, everyone. Shopatili, Tela. Not right. Yeah, was this?
Yes.
Kunzu Kazin Shini Kolaya. Cousin the Terry Kunzu Shini Kola. Ani Sheriff say Pomojer, Milk, Pishi was a and I did all a Shini Kola. Chishero Chis loved or re.
Regular.
Things that Tangati Toma de Lea, Lord Jutun on Shia, Tisila.
So for this session, I was told to speak about calm abiding or shamatha practice. And before I do that, I wanted to share a small anecdote.
아니 nga tila lorju tuntong chik laimbe.
Layo.
Ya. Nima chila ngeki lamram drinki shinne korchi chik tikirwa. Nima nyini chikla weekend course chikla. Ta lo peshi dun sashi kongla re. Ngi jerum chiki lamram drinki ani shinne korchi song chini ngi shinne chik sheba yins. Ro weekend course chikla ta sa pemba nima nyila. Ani
Yes.
nima tamadila ya nga miji ki choji tiso. Miji nga choji tiso, choji kukar sikda sana. Ta kirangi jerum chiki ani shinne druptang kordi pe sivu chini she songs. Yinbayna kirangi nyamnyong toni shinne de ani ngodri chira cheta sa kungala. Wadindi chila.
So around 7 years ago, I gave a weekend course on the practice and cultivation of shamatha according to Tsongkhapa's middling stages of the path to enlightenment. And during that time, I tried to explain the cultivation of calm abiding in as explained in Lama Tsongkhapa's middling stages of the path to enlightenment. And at the end of the weekend, at the end of the session, one gentleman, raised the question that he said, "Well, you have explained very well um, about the cultivation of shamatha practice as explained in the text. Now, can you explain the cultivation of shamatha practice as per your own experience?" So that's what he asked me.
Tendi ngeki ngala mixe ki shinne nyamnyong ke mes.
So to which I told him that I do not have any personal experience of cultivating shamatha.
Ani midi ma legong la drone ro nganzu chozo legong la drone ani khonzo la labda. Ani kuchi sekdisa. Kuchi nganzu Geshela la shinne ki nyamnyong mandos. Nganzu shinne ki nyamnyong yongi geshi chike tarashi.
So later that gentleman went to the office of the center and he rather lodged a complaint saying that, for God's sake, our Geshela do not have any experience of calm abiding. Let's invite someone who has real experience of calm abiding.
Shinne korshes la nga kadine ti chengdos.
So whenever I was told to talk about calm abiding and cultivation of calm abiding, I got reminded about this incident.
Teriya nga tachida nganzo ta rikshon ki kebarwa tarwa. Nganzo ta nyamnyo yoda me ki kebas ke ma nganzo pena nganzo ta pepe rikshon raw jimba na pepe namba sanji wik chwe chingi ta chik pepe gomba kak na dengin so yinba na ani ngi chik tok so ngi shing so nga di nyamnyo ke so sayagi di chigma res ta. Di ta dindi xe dewa na mi mangbo chigi ta ishe chigiri ani gawa da chigo warwa pena ta chige rawa jimba na lamsan chig shiwa na ngi shing sonsi ani ngi tomba ni togu do sayarwa dindi xe ngi mangbo yungu do da ani mi rik chigi tango ni insari samche ani ku jesu chukchi pena ta tokpa tongbo yin sayarwa da nga chig insi lao ngi di ya mi mangbo iche shiwa cheche ani ngogor mangbo tegi warwa ta gogo mangshu di nga mixeji yinsi la teni ani pena ta nabsho nangla la yungu yore thakdun de pena ta jik shasho pena gyana dawa jimban shivu dindi ani gogo nga yungu yore Dindi gaksha suru jinsar da kanji pepe gi pigi gomba tozo na ngone gi chik labasum ki tsu chebe nyamlen tsende nandengin sogi ani susu la yo tobi tobi yon dendi ani sangwa shu chigo res. Nguyo niso la ya pen kar tokwa ina ya kar shiba ina ya ti labia la ani pedi samba namda shu yo res. Pena nge shimba di nge kyaranzo labshawa na ani jema nge labia ragmar samsam jema khunzu gi she do nga khogo ragmar tinji gi nam to che yo mares so khang shimba di pe samba namda ki ani she ya di khonshi shu yo res tro.
So um, in certain cases, I think that there sometimes also have a little bit of kind of a cultural shock when it comes to the practice and and the realization, cultivation of certain realization and so on and so forth. For instance, as far as the Tibetan culture is concerned, it is not kind of customary or it's not very established tradition to publicly share one's own realizations that you have achieved, but rather once the realization that you have gained over engaging in practices are supposed to kept secret, and whatever the intellectual understanding that you have, you're supposed to kind of share and teach those understanding publicly. So otherwise, sometimes what happens is that when some teachers publicly share that they have reached high levels of realization, some people might believe it, some people, may not believe it. And sometimes if you go after such kind of claims, then there is always a tendency to fall prey to kind of, um, you know, follow a wrong teacher, because most of those who have publicly claimed to have gained high levels of realization are very likely to be charlatans. So even in Western countries and even in many Eastern countries, there are many, kind of publicly called teachers who are in fact not kind of genuine teachers, but rather they have a tendency to publicly claim that they have reached high levels of realization, and then they start to kind of, follow the wrong path and so on and so forth. So therefore, it is important to make a distinction that those, particularly in Tibetan tradition, it is a very well established tradition to kind of share and teach the intellectual understanding that you have gained without any kind of hesitation. And then we really need to consider what is more beneficial. So as far as the Tibetan teachers are concerned, they would readily and they would happily share all their intellectual understanding. But if you look, of course, there are many teachers who have gained high levels of realization and who are very sincere and genuine in their practice. But such genuine and sincere teachers are not they may not kind of publicly claim that they have reached high levels of realization. Yes.
당아서 단 잠블린 통 열어서라 잠블린 기페 아니 개왕 쪽에 담시 지온디 담시 추즈직 시발이야 하장 공심보러 왔으라 공사자 아니 리메치니 시그마로 왔어 아니 대야 아니 베나 리코르치니 땅에라 소발이야 전진 슈치로 왔으라 아니 제 메칸조 마줄라 때 리메치니 시그마로 왔어 때 디오 마레스 메타즈레 땅안조 베베 남베기 난추 체딩이게 아니 나다 디디 케완스 디디 케마레스로 디스 장여마도 오늘 단위기 개버 제 선보 속에 가리 송고 좀이야. 링미치니 송사라바이나 가신 조징한 마도 앙이 시연디 메시아마지가 라도사리 아니 가 고급 쇼도사 선선 도박거려요 말했어. 이 용거 말했어. 이 고급 쇼예요 말했어. 그럼
So, and another thing is we also, if you look at the kind of world of academics, the academicians, the scholars who have reached a kind of high position in the academic world, if they were to give a public talk or if they were to make a presentation on their own field of research, obviously they won't do it for free. People need to pay a kind of honorarium for the presentation, and there will be lots of restrictions whether their talks should be telecast or not, and so on and so forth. There will be restrictions whether to put their presentation in social media platforms and so on and so forth. So there is always these restrictions. But as far as the Tibetan scholars are concerned, they won't kind of do such kind of restrictions. They will be happily ready to share their knowledge if anyone is interested to listen, and they won't kind of think that, oh, if I share my knowledge, I may kind of lose my job or something like that. They won't even consider these possibilities, and they will be happily share their knowledge whoever is interested.
당이 너도 가르치고 있으라나 가리 냠린 제바이네야 랑기 니바 니고에 로 벤다 먼저 신이 꼴레 시온디 신이 꼴레야 니바 니고에 조직디 신이 믹바싱디 간다시 하고 예메 로 신이 믹바디 야고 중문지치 마투나 아니 텔미비 신이기 아니 떨로티 땡인진디 드비코리오 마라스 드비오 마라스타로 미국거라 하마고나 문지치 마두나 텔미비 신이 드탄 코리오 마라스
So the point I'm trying to make is that whatever practice that you are engaging, and it is really important to first identify or recognize the focal object. For instance, if you are engaging in the shamatha practice or practice of calm abiding, the first thing is really to recognize the focal object, or rather object of the shamatha, because unless you fully recognize the object, there is no way to actualize the mind itself.
데리딘자 단다 치코란라야 시 네세 다 인지 돌디 칸데 단달라 시 네세 진다 승리다스라
Yes. So, for instance, if you look at the word itself, the Tibetan term has two syllables, shine. So, in English, there is calm abiding. So, this word is composed of two syllables, calm and abiding.
다 인규 셈 시와 셈 네바스 딜라고다스라 셈 시와 셈 네바스
So here, when we talk about the calm abiding, we have to kind of relate these both words with mind itself, such as calm mind and kind of a calm mind, and the abiding of mind.
셈 단다 시와스 라운디 셈 시와스 라운디 먼저 직 항상 그 섬로 멍자와이나 부스도 차가도 하더라. 성당에 망자와나 아니 디왕기 빼나 착주에나 슈침부지 착장게야로 소바 니 장가야로 소바 디 초직 성당에 망자비 왕기 회시 연구여서래서 성우 가주스 그 용당도바나 뒤 속이 샘대야 데스 흘러 연구를 텔레 템비기 아니 륜컴디야 흘러 차야라 팽기여서래서
So first, when we talk about calm mind, obviously it has a lot to do with, kind of reducing the thought. Because if there's so much turbulence of thoughts, turbulence of kind of, turbulence in the mind, the mind won't become peaceful. And because of that, it also will have a kind of impact on the physiological level. So the more calm we could maintain our mind more calm, our body will also become calmer and more relaxed.
데리다 더 네슬라운디 샘디 mikpa chigla ba tse chigdu neba ona gyun tune ba neba tela ne segoras ra.
And now when we talk about the second syllable of the word abiding, so that refers to the fact or the possibility of kind of maintaining or abiding on one object for a prolonged period of time.
Ta imbayna ta densan tsawi kita shini gomdru chingin ki di capital chenpo shiuchi drogu yorasra zambalina ya pe mimambu tonan chigi yorasra. Ta di tsamalo tantanganzo pena ta nama sanjibigi pena gyagar kibigi sonni ma chongbigi shini gomdang lakdundu digbi ma ani deshi shinji maloba pe tenla pabchini yodeban jamgalama zungaba chenbigi ta lamran chenjigi nangna yobi ani shini gomdang di chagi yorosla na mang chishu di ngesamna chagi yosamares. Yosamares, right.
And now the practice of calm abiding is very much popularized in this day and age, and there are many people who are really interested in cultivation of calm abiding or the concentration practice. However, many practices that people follow these days, I personally feel that their practices are not entirely based on the explanations of the great Indian scholars and later commentaries of Lama Tsongkhapa and his disciples.
Imbayna di macha wayna ya di dukjarisen laguyo mares. Hansana misuzo ya pendo yorosra. Misuzo gersuzo ya pemba chona chita jigba jawasra. Jigba res. Ina tetsam chokbarewasna. Tetsam ki chokbarewasna. Penata namba sanjibi chue chingi jingwini shena. Tetsam ki digiyo mares. Pehita jagar kibi ki son. Lakdundu chik kamalashila soba. 아니 공론 동다 파르스는 소비 마스 아니 텔라 파비자비 따지 곰 겹단지어라다 드즈페 내가 친구 그렇다 언니가 넘버 양 타바지 치고이나 빼마서 계시모 있어레스트라.
So many practitioners in this day and age, their shamatha practice or their kind of practices, they may not kind of go entirely as per the explanations of the ancient Indian scholars, but that doesn't mean that it is not serving its purpose, because as long as people are getting benefit from this, it is okay. But the question is it sufficient for that? to answer that, if you are a sincere kind of true Buddhist practitioner, then it's really crucial to make sure that your practices go in accordance with explanations of the great Indian scholars, such as Kamala Shila's stages of the meditation and so forth. So for a genuine practitioner, the explanations in these texts are really important, and it's yet again important to make sure that your practices also go in accordance with these texts.
Sem shibigi tablaya ani juk bebdeyaji mato sem nibigi tab dendandi ngichinada nangamando sira penal ani ji uk gomyala soba da tuzu ra ani ji penada namju walking meditation sana da pigi ra kombo podang la soba da ji yore tuzu la pa sem techeni ani droya di 아니 지금 남도 망부지 시야기 탑 zamado only 신이 미과 송제네 델라 셈니비 탑디 차그레스나 깔카고 인사를 상고도스.
For instance, in many cases, the practices that are prevalent in this time, many of them are meant to kind of pacify or rather calm the turbulent mind, but they are not very much focused on sustaining the kind of sustain the focus of that particular mind. For instance, if you're doing a breathing meditation, or if you're engaging in rather walking meditation, all of these are kind of primarily focused on kind of reduce the turbulence in the mind and make our mind more calmer, but they're not serving very much, they're not much a lot to do with sustaining the focus of the mind.
디가 밀 팽기요를 간스나 간스다 잠블리 하창 그 축저 두부차 용디 아니 남도 망부 쇼지 랑신 그 셈을 레고라서 더 딘디기 토네 아니 지 셈레 강가 망부 쇼 체관자 두주기 땡땡 갑두라야 아니 지 숙자만단 자와 아니 팽기요 완자 무슨 가우치기요라서 대 제초바지 제어바지다 제거래서
So many of these practices are kind of, people get benefit from these practices because this day and age, the society itself is so chaotic, and people need to find some kind of, they need to find a means to reduce the disturbing thoughts, and they could do so by engaging in these practices. So for temporarily, it may serve its purpose of calming the mind.
Sem ne matuna, pigi sem mikpala ne matu baina. Teni gyun rimbugi bena ta chik tendu sem la ya penya di negab sem shiva tsamgi kalakakwarwas. Ani pigi yul mikba shenda trebana lamsan namdo ye yungwarwasra. Ta mikpala ya mikba chik pigi mikba tset songni telya sem neyagi komji chik ten tubayna. Ani teni gyun rimbula ya kanji tendu dewa sayadi yongya di tsawachi tsugu yosarez.
So as part of the calm abiding practice, the first one is to try to make our mind more calmer. So after making our mind calmer, now the second thing is we have to try to maintain that calmness, maintain the focus of this calmness, so that the effect of the practice will endure for an extended period of time. Otherwise, you may be able to temporarily make your mind calm. But if you cannot remain or maintain that focus, then immediately, as soon as you encounter with another object of distraction, the disturbances of mind will arise again. So therefore, on top of calming the mind, it's also important to maintain the continuity of the mind and maintain the focus of the mind, so that over a period of time, we will kind of get accustomed to attain the everlasting everlasting joy.
The dinza, the migbad karre said, Shinig migbad karre said. Ketchishu the dinza, the Shinig migbangon soyadi, the Ketchishu race. The Narang Solaya, Shinig migbangon soyadi, the Ketchimbuch.
So therefore, I personally feel that the most crucial thing is really to be able to kind of identify the focal object of karma abiding.
Tadi Chicks Karan Zohaku Yigire. Lagdon the Dachi Lamram Lea, duties young Hinjimban, Lamram Nangish, machine sondi, and it Migbatos Siwchini. Son Yorosra.
So if you are familiar with the Lamrim text, Stages of the Path to Enlightenment, you may already be familiar that in this text, the description about the focal object of shamatha is explained in a very kind of succinct way.
Tilda Toma the Munzichon, the Dijin and Munzichina, Bishop of the Yosares. When a Shinni Sagi, Shinni Sadi, the logic was the logic, logic, Chagoras. The Lolaya, when a Rigni Chivana, one she the Yigishiva Nishini, and Yigishiva Chagores. Shinidi, logic Yimbalaya, Lote Yishi, the one she the Yishi Nis Chene, and Yigishivi logic Chagores. One she won't give Shini singing Yomarista, Yomaris, Drea Yomarista.
Yes. So now when we talk about karma abiding, and to understand the concept of karma abiding, first we want to understand that when karma abiding is a state of mind, obviously it is a mind, or rather it's a consciousness, or it is a mind. And within the mind or within the category, generally the consciousness is category could be grouped into sense consciousness and mental consciousness. And the karma abiding belongs to the category of mental consciousness. So there is no such thing as karma abiding. There is also a sense consciousness. Karma abiding is always a mental consciousness.
The ditching on the Tandala Carlevers Lana, Shinig Migbati, Yiki Shibig Yulchilaya, Yishig Yulchilaya, Munzichigo Yaba. One Shig Yulsamaimba, Yiki Shibigita in the Yulchilaya, Munzichigo res. Yishig Muki Yulia, Shago res, the Jeromichi Sivu Shuji Son Yores.
So here the point is that since karma abiding belongs to the category of mental consciousness, so the focal object of karma abiding should also be a focal object of a mental consciousness.
Tila ondi nganzuta migin tong deyage, ani sugjing chödan, nawe ko deyage, ani dai chö, anchi lug re deyage, ani rejig chö la sobati, ani ta ro reksha da, ani ro la sobati di, 아니 신이 미버 차고 말스다 간지 신이 미버 차고 문도스 기름즈 람름 나지 테스타 투바나 다 인지 돌아 요래 람름 딩 세나 디그리 람름 쳔모 세나 디그리 신이 갑도 될다 미버 베 세우진 요레스 디 피기디 양양테 디 코테 시라와나 근데 자세자도 베 냉가로도 마서 쇼지 체투게지 다 너희 니 서로 들이 이용도스라
Yes. That's wrong. So here, when we say that the karma abiding belongs to the category of mental consciousness, and its object should be an object of mental consciousness as well. So this being said, the things that we see through our sense consciousness, such as the physical form, or the sound that we hear from our ear consciousness, or the kind of other objects related with our sense consciousness, such as taste, touch, and so on and so forth. But these things cannot become an object of shamatha or object of karma abiding, because these are the object of sense consciousness, and the object of karma abiding should be associated with the object of mental consciousness. So if you read the middling or the great stages of the path to enlightenment, since both of these texts are now available in English translation, then you can clearly see that the object of karma abiding should always be a object of mental consciousness.
다디즈 다찬즈 신이 쟁거여번 남기 소즈 신이 미바 콜라 아니 미바 샤니 아니 땡인지 기에게 탑시치기였으로 디다이렌도다 다 디질라나
So now, since all of you are kind of studying and try to cultivate shamatha, it is important to know that in your own personal practice, kind of what you put as the focal object of your shamatha practice, is it a focal object of sense consciousness or is it a focal object of mental consciousness?
다 미바 코란 시온디 치료구 유직 샤그여서 말했어 치료구 유직 이식 열디 배는 안주다 다 남바 산기비게 아니 베기다 직 신의 공인 진바이나 마샤지기 아니 상기 꿀라야 미니 신의 공구여레스 텔레야 고바 몸부 쇼지 송여다 상기 꿀에 믹시비 꾸디 가발에 샤르스나 아니 랑기 일라 차위 라 담봉 안주 상기 꾼라로다 안 두스 제기로서라 안 두스 제 아니 텔라 때니 아니 상기 듯한 딘디지 요사리 삼삼지 로라 차야지 상기 꾸수지 로라 차야지 용거로서라 다 랑기 믹 좀니 단지 꾼라 요사 사자 딘니 게체니 아니 대한 믹 좀니 암조까니 가야 메시지 깔이야 다 소소도 대원디게 다 단지 꾸지 로라야 샤리아지어라서라 로라 나위게 나와디 신이 미발 샤고 서레스
Then in the text about cultivating shamatha or cultivating karma abiding, you would often find this description that when you start your concentration practice, we should focus on a statue of Buddha. However, of course, the statue of Buddha is a form. The focal object of the shamatha practice is not strictly meant for that statue alone, but first you have to look at the statue, and then as soon as you close your eye, you create a mental image or mental picture of that statue of the Buddha. And now in the karma abiding practice, you have to focus on that mental image or the mental picture that you have created, not on the actual kind of statue. So that mental image or the mental picture is the focal object of shamatha.
당고나 게 농축 침부 직셔 손스라 믹좀 세야 당에 농축 그래셨어 믹좀 세야 등 남경 가랑 상당한 돈시는 게 등이 농축 그랬어 믹좀 고 말했어
Yes. So when I say you have to, after closing your eye, obviously here I made a mistake. It's not necessarily the true that you always have to close your mind, close your eye, close your eye when doing shamatha meditation.
더 단지 군다지 제요래 군다지 세우 진 제는 군다지 제우 칼이야 때 십사고 진 때느라 오 칸다지도 우 아니 죽돌 칸다지도 아니 데니마 용디게 아니 토바드 칸다지도 아니 지 년전이 칸다지도 샹 칸다지도 젠 칸다지도 비기 젠 나로 야 베나가즈다 아니 nganzo mig the several redos kyanzu mamuji ming hombor wasra an diki dita nakthik yobadi chigba imba je ine nganzo dangmenta ngonni gi sanji gi pe kandas shantu ngombu ta chendenji sanji ku chendenji shange imba na ani sanji gi chendi ngombu sokdo asra kyanzu ming hombo yongge sanji gi chensan des yonggo yosares chensanbo sanji gi chendi ngombu shangdo asra
So before one engages in the shamatha practice, in order to maintain the focus, first we have to kind of look at the stage of the Buddha. And when we actually look at the stage of the Buddha, we have to look and examine very carefully about the details of the statue. For instance, how the how does the head of the statue looks like? How does its crown looks like? How does its eye looks like? How its earlobe looks like, so on and so forth. So we have to really focus on the details of the particular statue. And particularly if you look at the eye color of the Buddha, the most skilled artist would paint his eye a blue. So therefore, those of whom you have blue eyes have a little resemblance of the Buddha's eye for having a blue eye. So the point is that whenever you, before you do the actual meditation, when you focus on the statue, you really need to focus the details of a particular statue with its fine details in mind.
다들 간지 산지기 꾸주디 만졌다 지미 셴다 만다와키 꾸수치 요르와스 요반즈 디타 디시종기다 베이다 지 아니 소케바드조기 베나 소케바드조기 아니 미치 뒤라샤네 디치고 촌나다 찍빠찍게 빠르게 샤나지 인치도에 드는 거 디나신지 있다 샹요서와스라 오 딘리지 제친다 간지 아니 산지기다 아니 꾸수가 내다 용수 줘봐 베나 샹다 셰다 드니 베나 아니 착바 임바이나 베디 아니 지혀다 베딱 간다지요나 간다지요 딱랑 베 십사 친 제제 샘라야 아니 녜와친 로 차직 젠다 용말 양니 양든 제제 안 소줄라야 산지 꾸지가바나 디카드이나 아니 쇼기 따바다 간주 남바지 임바이나 아니 쳐바지 퓨직 제라다 안 디칼라야 아니 산지 꾸수디하고 제제 아니 간점 질라 지여다 디꾸딜라야 카리 여바이나야 소수 샘나라야 텐데야지 나 소토 걸어왔어라 디페케이션 부인사레스 디페케이션 부인사레스라
So therefore, it is really crucial to look at the details of that particular statue, because a statue, of course, it's a representation of Buddha's enlightened body, and Buddha's enlightened body is believed to endow with all the kind of good qualities. So therefore, whenever you focus on this particular statue, you have to really focus and kind of try to notice the fine details of how it is built or how it is created, the fine details related to the particular features of Buddha's enlightened body. So as Buddhists, in the early morning, obviously we make offerings to the statue of the Buddha. So if you have a statue in your own meditation room, then every time you see the statue, it is important to focus on the details of that statue and kind of try to understand the unique features of that particular statue. And it's really important for your shamatha practice.
Tadini Tangushi Shini Gombi Kaptula, Tabigil Shin Dechini, Ani Subi Netan de Taranso Shani, Tatanji Jedagi, Sangi Kodi, Tasamdan Rasra, Samdawandi, Mikin Dunlaya, Tonya Mevainaya, Sam Nalaya, Shariach, Dende Yungres. That Samnala Kang Shabati, Ani Kang Shabat Teleba, Sam Neagi, Ani Tabshin, Gunjani. Comedida, the kitchen bush shows sondas, Nyamyo young in so, Nyamyo young in so, kitchen bush shows sonda, Nyamyo Ragoina, Nyamyo young in so, son shall tell Tipe Lalenta edita, any kitchen would be res.
So now during the actual practice of kame biting, if you have a very, if you have kind of paid attention to the details of a particular statue, for instance, now in your actual practice of kame biting, since you have paid a kind of attention to the details of that particular statue, now when you actually try to kind of meditate, or when you actually try to remain focused on the mental image you created out of that statue, you could create a more clearer kind of mental picture of that. So so according to the text that were written by kind of experienced master, it is explained as a very, very crucial element for the shamatha practice.
The love the chogo yita, Tezara, Shinitingi be Mambu Yarasra. Kachigi, then the Suzuki, when the Suzu Samgam the Tembu Rojida, Tangbu Roji Mevaina, and Mishalaya, Samkum Tembu Dang, Tangbu Yongyagi, and Lodrik Chia, the Shandun Galaka. Things are the Shindi Yamyoing, one occasion, Shindi Yamyo Yongiji, Shindi Yon Turn Sangiji, Ma Trishabigi, any Tablum D, any Nanzun Joya D, Shindi Dunging when the Shindon occasion was.
So if you really wanted to kind of enhance our practices of kame biting and kind of try to cultivate kame biting, obviously these days you find many teachers who do teach about kame biting, but the most crucial thing is really to rely on those kind of authentic explanations kind of written by masters who have in fact actualized and reached high levels of realization.
Tadanji, Tomadim do Sandandi, Semla Kang Shavati, Sanji Kuch Sharajura, but Chansang Shariag Tavishi Chedena, Yang Shini Druyalia, Nugri Sonyores. 간서 통만이 미바 용수저와 세부 쇼지 샤리아 탑시체 대바이나 아니 신닌 주야디 딱 야르는 줘야기 아니 냥가를 송도 왔어 다강 샤야디 샘라야 강 샤야디 텔라파 샘니야기 디베 템비 카즈 시기 송투 바이나 디 템비 카즈 시기 송투 바이나 아니 아 템비 이게 아니 샘디 미발라파 아니 벤 탁비게 담바 난신기 아니 담투야기 탑시 디송고도 왔어
So as a focal object of the shamatha, first we have to try to remain focused on the kind of mental image or the mental picture that we have created, and we have to try to remain on that. Having said that, if you try to kind of focus too much about the details of that object, and then sometimes it is mentioned that it will also become a hindrance for the cultivation of actual shamatha. While try to remain on that object, sometimes you may not be able to create a very clear mental picture of the statue, for instance. The whatever kind of image that you have created, you have to try to abide on that mental image. So without trying to create a very detailed kind of mental picture, the whatever kind of image that you could able to create, try to remain on that and try to abide on that and try to kind of hold onto that object and try to sustain that focus. So that's even more important, to sustain your mind rather than try to create a very clearer focal object.
Ikabdullah, Pigita sem Migbalapa. Nedang Tabulum gita page or asra. Pedi dus jardata. Any Migbadi, any Kawanan shinche, Kawadan Tawati, Migbadi Kawadan Tawache. Nanzu sem di Lambojin Yombadan Tawache, Lanjin Yombadan Tawache. Tembati Tabale Peshache. The Tembig Tabagi, any Lanjin Yombadan Devi, sem di, any Kawadan Devi, Migbalapa, Damiatris.
The practice of shamatha and its relation with and the role of attention is often explained as the focal object of shamatha is likened to a kind of a pole, and our mind is often likened to a wild elephant, and the attention is often compared as a rope. So what we have to do is, just as we have to kind of tame the wild elephant by using a rope and tie it to the pole, so similarly, we have to use the rope of attention to tame the wild elephant-like mind and tied it to the focal object, or to the pole of the focal object or of that meditation.
It's okay. Sharaf Shetanish. Terda, Tinza, Mikpa Kawa the Dravi, Mikpa the Tembujmena, Pena Kawa Tembujmena, Kawa de la Lambujimba Takpa Kandaji Dam Shawainaya, and Kawa Tembu Mevanza, Shodo Rasra. Tis a Kawa the Dravi, Mikpa the Tembushush, Embushush Godasra. The same deal Lambujinaji Yomba, not the same debit, and Kazakale, Shodo. Dentawari. That Takbadi Takbujimena. Any language kawal dam to was Jimari and Tavachedoros. Tinanji Chembadi Tembushiko does. That did it. Kitcheshu di mikpa thedang mikpa di tembi gi temba nibu di ta tembu shuji kanji mikpa tembi gi temba sebu ji yoba na ani mikpa tembu chago waris taro teni ani sem telaba niyagi tab nom jodi ta susul yoris tab di yoris taro teni ani tes zunri tenyari anchi tengin zeng gong yaliya ani zhuo yong yagi tengin zeng ta yongden la sogo du sangwa di teba la sogo yoba na ani zhuo ji giri ada dinji gi toni da ani tengin zeng zhubdan chik sungu do asra
So as explained before, our mind is often compared like a wild elephant, and to tame that wild elephant, we have to kind of use a rope and tie it to a strong pole. So if the rope is not strong enough, we can't we can't tame the elephant. So similarly, our attention has to be really strong. So if you have a very strong kind of attention, then there is a possibility of maintaining the focus. And then similarly, when we try to now the elephant is tied with a rope, and then that rope has to kind of tied to a strong pole. So if the pole or the pillar is not strong enough, we can't, of course, that can't hold long. So similarly, the focus object of the kame biting, which is similar to a pillar or a pole, has to be really strong. So in the shamatha practice, therefore, the focal object and the attention, that sustains the focal object is really important. So the more kind of stronger your focal object is, or rather the more stronger your attention is, there is a greater possibility of attaining kame biting. And then after that, there is, we also need to focus about how to sustain that and try to think about the positive qualities of kame biting and so on and so forth. And all of this will also further enhance our practice of kame biting.
ta dini dinji gi tengin zeng ki tokpa kiyala ani ta gyabjong senanda ani gyugi ani choksaba di kechambu shuzi yoris choksayat sonum gu choksayat tinza sangi gu kula migwi shini dhugina kudi tembi ki temba chik si uchu sugina tu takdu kudi tembi ki temba chik gigi inbay na sangi gu ku tembi ki temba di topji sonum sagi yoba chik tsigo res ro sangi jiyon di nganzu ta ani kusung tu din jiyon di sonum sagi res lago ras ro kansan kusung tu din ki yonden pina sangi gu ku yonde ka zu sam tu ba na ani di tsugi digba megi wegi ani chokdi ta nyong rogra wasara kula jiwigi tunyo kazu zigi rinla ya kudin jiwi rinla ya ani nyumun shenpa che kiyagi kokob koramundo wasara kudi yabu chipigili ya semten kudin jiwi kama nga nima chik tu chiwa diga ani sonum sagi yobadi nganzu da drup tugudu wasara tirda dindigi sonum sa 아니 촉직니 소놈사 촉직니 미바 템비 템바 템부차 미바 템비 템바 템부차베도지 가 미바디 아니 세우지다 템부차 될 때니 아니 샘디 미발을 제주디 니야기다 규제 마무지 창원디 아니 샘때니 데투고레스 아니 겨rum부 차원디 콤디 체체 아니 땡인 대신이든다 주구여러스라
Um, so of course, there are many kind of causes and conditions, and rather many factors to attain kame biting. And apart from having a very strong attention in the focal object, accumulation of merit is also considered a very important element for actualizing shamatha. So here, when we talk about accumulation of merit, of course, if we try to remain focused, if we choose to remain focused on the statue, as soon as we look at the statue, and if as soon as we try to remain focused on the statue, or rather the mental image of a statue, so for that particular period, um, we somehow kind of block any possibility of arising any negative thoughts. So therefore, focusing or rather thinking about a statue is considered as a kind of effective way to accumulate merit. So now, with accumulation of merit and with having a strong attention and the kind of focus of the meditation, then when all these conditions are assembled, then there is a kind of possibility of actualizing shamatha practice. That's all.
Tadre, tinza, tindri chinda sanji ki kudlaya migwi ki ta shini drupsavi jela, tagarangi ta digyo marasra. Ta di shini mandru bardu migwa khurang ranglaya, ani teni, ani khomdi tenbayina, ani shini drup lagiri 라 대리 빼는 산지 꾸러질래 미니 신내드야 탑시지 아니 산이 셴바질래야지 누 세대바나 아니 신내드야디 깔카고 차그레스 당 안주 단디 차라야 당 나랑 서로버다 단디 뒤스 니리질래야 자비기 신내드당 탑라 마부 쇼지 송여다이네야 데 참말로 안주 럽종 제야다 간지 토네 만단디 잠발라 약슈디 산지 꿀라미니 신내드야 오늘 신내드응에 신내드응에 샘띵니 당이지 아니 신디나발야 신내드응나 상게지 임바이나 야슈디 산지 꿀라미니 신내드야디 인사레스 답데시 아니 소노미나 사지여바 아니 디 디지금 베준 딩아니 아니 베나 만주 세드 조바이나야 아니 산지 텐신비 토니 산지 템비 템버데 템비 토니 아니 깨워도 표조가서 깨워 치마이나야 지 산지 템버데 잘투야 간지 넘버 증거는 som다나 두수 빼 마스바 계시 무차고레스 넘버 매나고 넘버 매리고 이제 로가로 왔어 넘버 증거는 som다만 빼는 가랑 로증거는 som다만 다 딜리 계체지 로 산지기 아니 꾸송 툭송 게 연된 삼야 딜리 계체지 근데 문도 왔더라.
So here, when we talk about the focal object of karma abiding, and particularly at the stage of one's training, when we are trying to actualize or rather attain the karma abiding, it is important to keep kind of one focal object during the entire course of your practice. For instance, if we kind of keep changing the focal object, it will make our practice even more difficult to actualize karma abiding. So therefore, at the first, if you choose to remain focused on the statue of Buddha, then it is important to maintain that for the entire duration of your practice, because then if you kind of keep one focal object, then there is a greater chance of attaining karma abiding. So therefore, try to remain focused on the statue of the Buddha has many significances. Not only that it will enhance our possibility of attaining shamatha, it's a more quicker kind of way. On top of that, it will also help us to accumulate merit. So as a Buddhist practitioner, reflecting on the good qualities of Buddha's enlightened body, speech, and mind is very, very crucial, because even if you kind of die while reflecting on the exalted qualities of Buddha's enlightened body, speech, and mind, then even in their future lifetimes, there is a possibility of again encounter with Buddha's teaching. So therefore, if you're not practicing Buddhist, then it's a different story. Otherwise, if you're practicing Buddhist, then reflecting on the good qualities of Buddha's body, speech, and mind has many significances.
세대를 삼다면은 산지 꾸순 투순기 연된직 삼투바나 가주 삼투바 디체기 디윤 디rinlaya semla ani shidelegres sem shivadlegresro ani sem shivitobji lüdevade legores unguyres.
So even if you talk about this life alone, the more you be able to remain, or rather, the more you're able to focus on the exalted qualities of Buddha's body, speech, and mind. So for that duration, we will be able to maintain a very calm and peaceful state of mind.
Pena anda Australia lombanala kasa kala ani sanji chomdendigi kunyi 샤샤섭 망부 쇼여라 가서 건지 향연도 속에 사자 가서갈 샤거를 빼는 산조 건동의 샤거를 남각 술의 샤거를 안디수 건조 통망 안 될래디 샘나 마딩엔다지 딩이는 통용요 말았다 빼나 먼저 야가도 벼도 딘들야지 산지 군인지 비 아니 산조 건동의 샤자 딘딘 통나다 땅원내 탄다 뺏었으라다 아 만통디 통만통디 샘나라야 아까 tingala jawan jandang di khedo ga sar samsam tindi mamu sorgu dasra do sound down di cheba chimele keje ti konzo shidi jile ya zigdo shidi asanji ko de thoma zamgi ani ending semna ya de chi ani sem shiwa ji legu yobanza ani sem shiwi deva di nyongu yobanza ani sosu tygyun thong desa tindile ya 직 대바드 딱 군조레스 말람네야 아니 대바드 딘디 매바이나 그 통어 잠기 샘래야 아니 대바지 때리면서 아니 또 공부연에서도 통바자신진 샤 교즈 통원디 근데 독자랑 레상구도 하스라.
So therefore, if we look at the speech of the Buddha, it often makes us mind more calmer. For instance, when I first reached Australia, and I saw in many places where Buddha's statue is installed, sometimes near the toilet door or sometimes near the entry hallway. So I saw, Buddha's statues installed in many strange places that we Tibetans traditionally do it. So first, when I reached here, I kind of had a cultural shock by seeing these statues placed in different places. But later, during that time, when I first saw it, I felt a bit uncomfortable. And I thought if I have a freedom, I would definitely place it to a better place. But over time, I tried to ask people about the reason behind placing it. And then I later came to realize that people often find kind of peace of mind by seeing and beholding the statues. So it, of course, it has a significance. So people put the statue at the places where we frequent more time. So the thing is that they often feel some kind of peace and serenity upon beholding the statue of the Buddha.
도말레디르다 로타마니 버송바 딘디당에 아니 딘디쿠 마물 루임바 아 가서다 비길이야 다 오늘 신화상 슈르 통고도야 샤단다 슈단다 지거라다 샘나 오늘 지 아카 선송 슈레다 또 선데 코란즈야 될 템비 아지 디지를 하면서 아니 상기 지된데 준비 거버디 심지를 디지만 시도 페버로 왔어 in the Sanji Kuni Khan Shunaya, you sit near the Kevin, tell you big, any Socha Simjin Laya, Digi Jungu another, did the Sanji Gomba de Redwasra. Because Sanji Gomba de Resha something, and then something good isn't true.
Yes. So after first, when I reached Australia, whenever I see a kind of Buddha statue, when when I found Buddha statue placing it, uh, certain places, I felt kind of. I tried to, replace the place. I tried to even bought certain statues where I saw it in a, different places, and then later when I found that, people find peace by seeing the statue, I thought, well, it makes sense. And then later, the whole purpose of Buddha appearing on this world is really to spread peace. Uh, and if his statue could spread peace, then there is no difference in the place where it is installed, as long as people find some calmness and peace by beholding the statue.
In Tasmania says a jero, Arlen Jora.
Yes.
Tasmania Jigdon, big Tsonganjilaya, doi kuch, didijigi, tembe ko, sum, Tsonganjana Shazda. Tsongandi Gondram Bigi, Sadikan Shazro. And he kill a Zotakroje, Takba, di Takba dinil, Shoguja dele concert chin, Piggy Sagan Shazda, Kunjo Semna, Kun Shadu Maze, Niluimba, Sumjang Niluimba. Now there's a nation you can't see Bassa. Nga kidong is leba. Angi tsu kiyong zangma sura. Zangma su. Yang binyi jiu chagda. Zangma su. Ang konzo jinda de pe gao chi ngi jinda de jik jay ma nga desa de. Angi kunyi kiyong. Namru na tsu kiyong ra. Tsu kiyong namdang la nga chokbo ji ko nga lenga lesu. Ko pe ya wadi sa. Angi ko jik takarang ko la jay namdang ni. Ngi chokbo de la. Jik nga ra ya kiyong. Angi jiu ngi me shenpa ji la jay ba. Ngi thoma tingi chayin si ra.
Yes. So one occasion I visited Tasmania, and then when I enter one shop, I saw three statues of Buddha made out of stone, three stone statues of the Buddha on the ground with the price tag on the neck. When I first see the statue covered in dust and the price tag with a rope on the neck or something like that, I felt very uncomfortable. And then I immediately went there and bought all the statues, all three statues. And then when I returned, my host says, "What are you going to do it?" Then I cleaned all the statues and immediately over him one statue, and I brought two statues back to Australia. And then at the airport, one of my friends came to receive me, and he saw the statue, and he said, "Well, this is a great kind of initiative." So I offered him another statue, and I brought one statue back to my room. And later I met another friend, and then I also offered the statue to him. Basically, I brought all the statue from Tasmania's shop.
든지다. 나토지 당게 깨지 초여기 메주로지 난 진짜 뒤서 줬어.
Yes. So with this, we will call this session, we will end this session.
제목 땡땡한서 고급라 그랬어. 난 저런서 고급 선이 인간서 언니지 제로무지 딱 송난 게 시내디 걸지 튀고 저는 간서 그 켄질이야. 사배만요 뒤서서는 간서 뒤돌아야 세우지는 소초 그랬어. 난 대대대
Yes.
거래. 저런서 니님 그렇게 라. 아니 간서 저틀린치 제초 그랬어.
And I'm sure that in the future we will also have opportunity to discuss about karma abiding in a more detailed way. So we could discuss this during a weekend. I'm always here, and since all of you are from nearby places, we can always come back and have a more kind of detailed description or explanation about shamatha practice.
Thank you so much.
Final Lamrim prayer, page 12 in a small booklet. From my two types of merits vasa space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a grand length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all life's Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtues practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you very much.